5 years old is the earliest I can remember. And my dad's dad used to take me to places away from everybody else and take advantage of me. Later I remember my uncle on my dad's side would do the same thing, but offer me candy to be quiet and to come with him and not say nothing. Both of them continued to molest me up until I was a preteen and my grandpa passed away and my uncle got married. After that, my brother's friends and friends of the family tried to mess with me over the years. Sometimes it took a long time to fight them off, sometimes it was hours. One friend worked on the backhoe and he told me he'd take me for a ride on the backhoe and done shit to me there. So when I became an adult, I thought, I'm free now. I got married, had a child. For 2 years after my daughter was born, my husband would beat me. I tried to leave, but anytime I tried to leave, he would force me to have sex with him and force me to stay, and I would just give in and go to bed. The night before I finally had the courage to leave, I found my husband's wallet in the bathroom and opened it, and inside he had little cutouts of naked women all over the place, and that was the final straw. The next day I called my mom and dad, and they came up there and got me and Christina, and we came to live with him. After a couple of years, I eventually got remarried and had 3 more children, 2 boys, and then my last, a girl. Things were finally starting to look up for me in a way they had never been before. One day, though, I found out my husband was setting places on fire. The police came to me and then showed me objects that came from my house that he set the building on fire with. I had to turn him in. We did divorce, and after that I went out with a bunch of losers. Never found anybody worth keeping. I started dating this guy that I met where I was working. His name was Scott. We dated for about 5 years. During that time, my first ex-husband fought for custody of my oldest daughter and got custody. After 2 years of fighting, I finally got custody back of her. When everything got back to normal, my daughter back at home with me, I got custody. She was back. Everything was okay for a while until I found out that Scott was doing major drugs and taking pills. I found out how he was doing drugs by the reason, as my children told me, that he beat them with a spoon for asking for hot dogs and something to eat. On that same day, or that same night, I called the police so they would come and get him because I couldn't get him to leave. And they took him because he hadn't paid child support in a few years. He'd been hiding from his ex-wife to pay his child support. So they came and got him for that reason, and I didn't have to worry about him no more. For a while, it was just me and the kids. A few months later, I met a man named Eric, and we fell in love. This time it was different. He treated me right and didn't hit me or my kids, and he wasn't mean to any of us like the other men did before. We were good, we remained good, and everything was good. A couple of years down the road, we moved to a new town, and everything was good for a year or so until I found out my oldest daughter was pregnant at 16. I felt like a failure as a parent. We had decided that Indiana had caused too much pain, so we moved to Tennessee, where my parents lived. My daughter stayed with them in their trailer because she was pregnant, and me and my other children and her boyfriend, daddy to the grandbaby, we all lived in camper and tents. And a few months after that, my granddaughter Zoe was born. She was so perfect. Eventually, we got our own place, a house, and we all moved in. And then a few months down the road, or a year or so, they got enough money and they got their own place, and my grandbaby and them all moved out. Everything has remained good in a sense of no more beatings and no more drugs. My life has been rough and has caused some major mental and physical illnesses. I have been diagnosed with anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, scoliosis, fibromyalgia, and a lot of other mental illnesses, I'm sure. Every day is a struggle just to stay happy. I fight with my loved ones a lot, even though I don't mean to, and I love them and I'm sorry. There are days that me and Eric argue, screaming matches, hours on end, because of his and my jealousy and trust issues. There are days that I wish I didn't exist, and I didn't understand why God put me on this earth to suffer the way I had. I just recently sought help so I can manage all these problems. Right now I'm taking things one day at a time. I try not to think about the past and try to only look towards the future. I think about my granddaughters and the joy they bring me. I think about my children and my life with Eric. The best thing I can do is try to remain busy. I'm in the process of completely letting go of the past. With that comes a grieving process. Even though it was a bad past, there are still techniques to get over that. Like I said before, I like to stay busy and play with my granddaughter. Right now I'm in a good place, and I know in the future it's going to get better. Even though life is tough and the past was tougher, I'm working on myself and my future so that the dark past can stay in the past. Finally live the life I deserve.